1955, didn't it? It was taken from the Spanish, who'd already established a small trade in African slaves. And we do have some data from 1611, which shows that there were 558 African slaves and around 1,300 Spaniards at that time. But within 50 years of colonisation, so there's colonisation, Britain had established sugar estates and they were importing more slaves from West Africa, so the number had gone up to 45,000. And then by the time Britain abolished slavery in 1834, Jamaica had a population of more than 311,000 slaves compared to 16,700 Europeans. So is it possible to work out the extent to which Jamaica economically benefited from the free slave workers?
Well, yes, what we know is that Jamaica is the largest colony and where the largest amount of Africans were trafficked, then it meant that Britain, in particular the British colonial government, benefited the most. And what we know, there's about 42% of the industry was generated due to trafficking of African labour, forced labour on plantations in Jamaica. So today we can sort of work out the equivalent of how much Britain actually benefited.
So you can put a figure on it, can you?
Well, the figures are being developed, but the starting point is not really looking at the figures in terms of monetary amounts. It's really recognising this history and the huge depths of this history and the legacies of this history for Jamaicans today. And the fact that the sugar industry is still one of the largest industries in Jamaica. So in effect, you still have a plantation-based economy.
Well, let's drill into some of those figures a little bit more, because we can look at how much Britain did profit. The wealth created in Jamaica by the labour of black slaves has been estimated at around £18 million, more than half of the estimated total for the entire British West Indies. And we're talking about the sugar trade mostly, aren't we?
Well, yes, and you know, it's interesting, this language of trade, because trade is how the colonisers saw it. It's not how the enslaved saw it. And for the enslaved, it was forced labour, it was trafficking, it was a genocide. And we know that even to produce sugar, the life expectancy for people working on these plantations was in between 7 and 9 years. This was hard, back-breaking labour, and it was a form of early terrorism, transnational terrorism.
OK, well, let's take a look at how extensive Britain's role in slave trading was. It's hard to be sure on exact numbers, but estimates are that British ships took around 1 million people to Jamaica and 3.4 million across the Americas, although many believe the number is much greater than that. The only country to carry more people over the duration of the slaving period was Portugal. So how extensive was Britain's slaving compared to other countries?
It began to dominate the enslavement of African people. I mean, a lot of focus is put on abolition